Excellent. Okay, I want to thank Jessica for being here tonight. Jessica is a a facilitator here at BFO, and she is a wonderful and artistic individual. She has a young daughter, and she's going to share tonight. So now that we have the recording and we have Jessica on, I think we can go ahead and let Jessica introduce herself. And then she has a short recording that we're going to present, and then she's going to go into her presentation. So, Jessica, whenever you're ready, you can unmute and away you go.
Thanks very much, Jody, and thank you, Monique, and everyone for having me this evening. I've been a proud volunteer at BFO for only a few months, but I've accessed their services for several years now, and I'm so proud to be part of this organization. So this evening, I'm going to be speaking about the death of my girlfriend who died 3 years ago by suicide. And what I'll be sharing is actually a letter that I've written to her. But before I share that, I wanted to start with this wonderful video that was created by United Way East Ontario in conjunction with Family Services Ottawa, where I was also lucky enough to receive services of support after my loss. So please feel free to share that video and then we can continue afterwards.
Okay, thank you, Jessica.
I think the video hasn't loaded properly.
Yeah, there's no sound, Jody.
Luckily, there's some very helpful subtitles.
Oh, sorry, let me try. Maybe it's how I shared the screen. Just let me try one more time here.
That says share sound to click.
Yeah. Uh, Sorry, give me 1 second here.
And if it doesn't work out, that's okay too. Everyone can find it online. We can share a link afterwards.
I think I got it. Sorry, that was my fault. Just a minute. Should work now. We'll just restart it.
In June 2022, my girlfriend at the time died by suicide. I didn't know how to manage what I was going through, so I knew that it would be a good idea to reach out. And so I contacted Family Services Ottawa, and they put me on a wait list for individual counseling. But in the meantime, they told me that I could access virtual counseling, which was incredibly helpful. And then in January the following year, I was able to start individual in-person sessions with a therapist at Family Services Ottawa.
There are these points in life where things happen and they throw us off, and sometimes we need help regaining our footing. And a lot of clients we see are just at that breaking point, or something really big has happened that is not expected. Jessica was able to recognize that she needed help to get through that and felt safe enough to reach out to us.
For mental health care to be accessible means a number of things. The first one that comes to mind is low cost or free. My name is Elise Schipper. I'm the Executive Director at Family Services Ottawa. A really critical piece of the United Way partnership we have is that the funding we get from United Way, the partnership we have, is based on being responsive, being innovative. There's a lot of room for us to be on the phone with United Way and say, we're really seeing this. We have a solution that we're pretty sure will work. Can you help us get it done? And they usually say yes, they find a way to make it happen. Mental health might be how they show up, how we get to catch them, how we get to first connect. They show up because they're experiencing extreme anxiety or depression. But what we encounter with them is that there are so many other things making those challenges more complex. So it means that they have unstable housing. Their finances are really challenged. They might be experiencing intimate partner violence and trying to figure out how to keep everybody safe.
I don't want one of those.
I know. I wanted to make sure that I had all the tools at my disposal to be a great parent. My daughter also was very close to my girlfriend and missed her terribly and asked about her a lot. So we were both dealing with this tragedy, and I wanted to be able to support her through what she was going through. And in order to do that, I had to be in the healthiest mental state that I could attain for myself. Yeah, I put new batteries in it.
I'm hopeful that folks will continue to reach out and to continue to come for help with their mental health. We all have the strengths within us or the resilience within us. Maybe it's the selfish part of the job that we do, but seeing the hope become restored is really powerful.
Being able to work with United Way, who shares that same perspective of working with a person, not working with a diagnosis, makes it possible for us to work with families and with people that way. They get to come in our door and we get to say yes. The impact of getting to work with United Way like that can't be underestimated.
I just have to say, I was so impressed with how that video was done. I thought it was incredibly tasteful and really reflective of my experience with those organizations. Jody, is there anything else you want to say before I continue?
No, I'm good. If you're ready, I think we're all ready to hear you. Thank you.
All right, this is my letter.
Okay. And then this is you. So if you want to change it,
Yeah.
1 second, Jeannie, I need my hand. Thank you.
This is muted.
Yeah, it's muted. No.
Everyone okay now? Okay. Okay. Dear Rachel, that is not your name, I know. But out of respect for the fact that you were a private person, for now, Rachel is what I'm going to call you. Dear Rachel, I need you to know that your suicide did not make our lives any easier. Just in case for some reason you thought of yourself as a burden, you weren't. Just in case you thought it would be better for everyone if you weren't here anymore, it hasn't been. Just in case you thought that we would experience some relief in your absence, I need you to know that's not what happened. Your family was devastated. From across the ocean, they reached out to me, searching for answers I didn't have. They also said some pretty awful and hurtful things to me. I've lived with the guilt of what happened. You and I had only been dating for a few months, and already we were in couples therapy, which is never a good sign. Our relationship wasn't working for me, and I wanted us to go back to being friends, though I knew for you that wasn't an option. You wanted us to get married. I wanted to want that. In many ways, it made so much sense for us to merge our lives, to move into your home, to raise my daughter together. But even in the early days of our relationship, I already felt suffocated. We had an argument, one of many, the night before you died. The next day, we had a therapy appointment, but you didn't show up. I was upset with you, so I responded coldly to your text messages and refused to answer your phone calls. I told you I needed space for a few days, that we could see each other that weekend. But you couldn't wait for the weekend. Or perhaps you didn't want that weekend to come. I was at a staff retreat when I received a series of text messages from your neighbors asking why there was an ambulance in front of your house. I rushed over. I saw your best friend and her partner sitting on the sidewalk in shock. They had found you. I'm sorry they did, but I'm glad it wasn't me. I'm glad I never had to see your body like that. It was deliberate, I know, because your once full bottle of OCD medication was found empty, your cats were well fed, and you'd left me a handwritten suicide note. When the police officer handed me the envelope with my name on it, I recoiled as though she were presenting me with a venomous snake. She said it was the most beautiful letter she had ever read. It was police evidence, so she had a right to read it, and so did your family. They all read what you wrote to me. So did your ex-fiance, who flew back to Canada to sort through your belongings and sell the house. He wasn't thrilled to find out you had left him to be with me and that you had painted the walls of his former office bright pink and turquoise. My family didn't know what to do with me after you died, so they disengaged. So did many of my friends. I felt my foundations crumbling. I took extended time off work and eventually left my job, risking my financial stability, which was already precarious for me as a solo parent. I had to explain to Joy at 2.5 years old that death means you're never going to see that person again. In the months that followed, my daughter was scared for me to sleep alone in my bed because she was convinced I would die, just like you did. I hate that she had to grow up so fast. Even though I can imagine a million things I could have done to stop this from happening, I recognize now that actually there is nothing I could have done, because having done something differently would have meant having done everything differently, having undone everything. And our lives over the course of those few months were so intricately intertwined that unraveling them to the point of being able to indicate the moment at which I could have done something would take a lifetime. And I'm sorry, but I don't have time for that. I have time for my daughter. I have time for my friends and my family and my career and my community and for myself. And once in a while, I will make time to talk about you, to celebrate the life you lived, even if I cannot celebrate the way you ended it. This was not my choice. I would never have chosen this. If I had had any say in the matter, I would have had you live to 100 as you always said you would, because your family has good genes. Grieving for me has been complicated, to say the least, because I'm sorry to say you were not the love of my life. There weren't decades of love between us like there were for so many of the people I've met who are grieving their partners. Suicide is not romantic, but you tried to shape the narrative of what happened between us into a love story that never was. Your suicide note ended with the phrase, "Yours forever," as though your death was a gift you were giving to me, something I might include in the novel I may someday write, and I reject that gift. Your life was far more meaningful and expansive than the way you died, and your death has not defined my life. You and I crossed paths for a moment in time, but my life has continued where yours ended, unfairly truncated. You were 30 years old, Rachel, and you looked even younger. You had a career you loved, you had money, you owned a home, people adored you, you were intelligent and sociable and athletic and generous and kind. You would get up early in the morning to go ice skating on the canal before work. You were building a community garden in your backyard to share with those who didn't have one. You were going to live to 100 and you were going to see the world. You called yourself Matilda. Your love of books was a welcome escape from a childhood of abuse and neglect. Raised under less than optimal circumstances, your brilliance shone through regardless, and you were able to make an enviable life for yourself. You survived everything except this. I am heartbroken, not over our failed relationship, but about the life you might have had if suicide hadn't cut it short. I wonder if things would have been different if you had just waited a day, if I had answered your calls and texts that afternoon, if I had been more patient with you, if we had just stayed friends, if you had never bought a home on the street where I lived, if you and I had never met, but there I go again. I know you are a private person with zero online presence and a distaste for oversharing. You didn't even want to have a funeral. So, for the first year after you died, I stayed uncharacteristically quiet, only sharing my grief with close friends and in settings that promised confidentiality. I found support with Bereaved Families of Ontario, with Family Services Ottawa, by joining a virtual queer death cafe, and by listening to podcasts about suicide, trying my best to come to terms with your death, to move forward thoughtfully and conscientiously. After that 1 year of respectful silence, I slowly began speaking more openly about what happened. In life, you tried to control the public perception of who we were to each other and the ways in which I expressed myself. But this is my story too, and I believe I have a right to tell it. I shared my experience with suicide loss on my social media pages and my personal website, and I felt relief in doing that. Soon after, I was asked to write about my experience for the Mental Health Commission of Canada, and I was featured in a promotional video for United Way East Ontario. Many people have reached out to me to share their own stories of grieving, and I continue to appreciate these opportunities to connect with people over something that destabilized me so profoundly. The past 3 years have been hard, Rachel. It's only in the last few months or so that I feel like I've found myself back on solid ground, but even now, there are days where I feel thrown by the weight of what happened. Still, life is good. I am grateful for the life that I have and for all the people in it. I'm back at university studying psychology, working as a life model, writing, volunteering as a counselor. Joy is 5.5 and starting senior kindergarten in French. She can ride her bicycle without training wheels, and she's an excellent swimmer. You would be so proud of her. We actually traveled across Europe the year after you died, just the two of us, and it was such a beautiful bonding experience. I guess I needed to get away for a while. It helped. You still play a role in my life, Rachel. The pasta dishes I bought for you from Hintonburg Pottery for your birthday are in regular rotation in our home. Your keyboard piano has found a home in my living room, and your Bodum has a home in my kitchen. You may be amused to know that I drink coffee more than tea these days, and you're right. Lattes do make mornings so much better. In fact, when another close friend of mine died almost 2 years ago, and Joy and I went with her family to scatter her ashes at the top of a waterfall in Gatineau Park, I brought some freshly ground coffee to scatter alongside them in your honor. It was good and healing. Dear Rachel, your suicide did not make our lives any easier, and I wish you hadn't done it. But I want you to know we're going to be okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Jessica, for sharing and being so open and letting us hear that letter to her. Thank you.
I don't want to put anyone on the spot, but if you have questions or feedback, I'm very happy to hear it, or you can save it for the groups.
Do you a little discussion time.